What's up, everyone? This is Bad Five with you again. This is going to be the next part in the suggestion video, whatever, where I'm responding to your questions, asking what some of my favorite things are, just video ideas in general. Now, one suggestion I got, and actually he gave me a few suggestions, and nonetheless, I'm going to do pretty much all of those, and I'm going to give a shout out. The user's name is LT Havoc 1983. Now, unfortunately, he doesn't have any videos, but nonetheless, I said I would give a shout out, give links to the channels and all that. The first one I'm going to do, because he put quite a few suggestions, and I like them. In fact, part of it's going to kind of bleed in to this one. But this video is going to be about, obviously from the title, some of my favorite movies. Now, I like a lot of movies. In fact, at one time, because I used to just watch movies a lot, I was considered a movie buff, which I never got. I never really thought of myself as such. I just thought of myself as a fucking normal person who likes to watch movies. But I have a few favorites. And over the years, I've seen some great movies. And the reason I like them is because they stay with me. But these are just going to be three of my favorite, in no particular order. I'm just going to talk about the movie, some background, and why I like it. Movie number one is A Clockwork Orange, the Stanley Kubrick classic, starring Malcolm McDowell. Now, it was based on the book by Anthony Burgess, and here's a little story about that. There were two different versions of the book, technically. There was the British version, the original version, which had 3 parts of 7 chapters. And the reason they did that is because 7 times 3 is 21, and you're considered a real adult at 21. And then there was the second version of the book, which was released here in America, which cut out the last chapter. And instead it had a dictionary of the Nadsat language, I guess to make, reading the book a little easier to understand, because the story about that was, it was supposed to be a Russian-influenced language. Because the story is supposed to be if the Russians had actually won the Cold War. And the thing is, the movie was based on the American version. That's the one that Stanley Kubrick got. So the last chapter is not in the movie. It ends with, same as the American version, I was cured all right. So there's kind of like a little discrepancy there. Now, I own the hardcover American one, which didn't have the last chapter, and a paperback re-release of the British one. Now, the reason I love this movie so much is, when I was probably about 10 or 11 years old, I know some people might be thinking, your dad let you watch that at 10 or 11 years old? Yes, he did. My dad bought it. He said this is his favorite movie. He'd been looking for it for a while. And I started watching the movie, and I'm kind of confused. It's like, why are these guys... Because, before I get onto that, the story is about, which I guess I should have said this first. I'm so fucking disorganized sometimes. The movie's about a 15-year-old, even though you couldn't tell from the movie, a 15-year-old kid who goes around with his friends, beating people up, raping people, stealing, causing all kinds of trouble. That's what they do. And they enjoy doing it. And at first, the story is going like, there's like this kind of happy music playing while they're doing this fucked up shit. And there's a reason for that. You're supposed to be looking at it from Alex's point of view. He had a good time doing this. And some people didn't get the symbolism of that, which I completely did. Now, Alex gets caught. And he accidentally murders someone, and he goes to prison. He's tried as an adult. Now, he's in prison for a while, and he's talking about, getting beat up and raped, and just having a fucked up time in prison. Well, then they have this program that the government has put in place. It's called the Ludovico treatment. And what that is a lot of people have probably seen this. If you haven't seen the movie, you've probably seen the symbolism in a lot of places. It's in pop culture, believe me. Simpsons did a few other... Well, actually, they did it multiple times, but what they would do... Alex was the first patient of this. They needed a test. And what they did was they clamped his eyes open, at least in the movie. I forget what happens in the book, but they clamped his eyes open, and they're showing him films of, like, women getting raped, people getting beat up, and, like, the Nazis... And he's watching this, but they injected him with a drug, and he's starting to feel sick as he's watching this. And it's supposed to be a learned behavior. Well, he's going through the treatment again, and he's watching, like, Nazi propaganda films, and, like, them bombing places, and they're playing Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, which happens to be, in the movie at least, his favorite Symphony. He loves Beethoven. In the book, not so much, and he's really upset because he loves Beethoven, and now he's going to feel sick. Well, then they send him back into the world cured, and his former victims are now coming back for revenge. Now, I'm not going to spoil the rest of the movie, but anyway, if you haven't seen the movie, you're really missing out. It's a great movie. It may take you a few views to understand it because, like I said, they're not speaking in straight up English. They're using slang. But watch it again, and you'll see so much symbolism and so much awesome shit in this movie that it's so worth buying, if not watching more than once. Movie number 2 is Rollerball. Now I'm talking the original Rollerball, starring James Caan. William Harrison wrote the original short story, which was called The Rollerball Murder. And I guess it was originally published in Esquire magazine, and then he later released it in the collection of short stories, which the book was entitled Rollerball Murder. Well, they asked him to write a story around this short story so they could make it into a movie, and he just shortened it down to Rollerball. Now, some background on this is, it was supposed to be set in the future, like Clockwork Orange, and I'm forgetting what year they said it was, 2029, I want to say, but it's like this. There are no countries anymore. There are no wars. There's no violence. Corporations have taken over the planet, and they have, like Houston, which that's who the main character plays for, is the energy city, and they have just cities who make different things. Food, I guess they say music, and things like this, but the only violence in society is this game, Rollerball. First time I watched it, I was actually kind of horrified because it's so brutal. Like, they use skates, and unlike the new one, they just have like a oval track. And they have like bikers who, can fuck people up with their bikes. Their gloves have spikes on them so they can, fucking smack people in the face or just hurt them. And I'm horrified because it's so violent, but that was the point. People had no violence in this society. It was just about Rollerball. That's how they got their violent fix. Now, the story, they show like the first game, and the executive for Houston, Bartholomew, asked Jonathan E., the main character, he tells him that there are executives that want him out because he's played season after season after season, and he's the champion over and over and over again. And that was not the point of Rollerball. The point of Rollerball was to show the futility of individual effort. And he was confused. He didn't understand, because I'm getting from this movie, because there is a lot of symbolism. It took me like 5 times of watching this just to find all the fucking symbolic moments. It's that in-depth. But most people in society are stupid, and they really don't have real names. And I always thought the name Jonathan E., this is what I'm going to end this movie on, with this little movie review. The name Jonathan E., now a lot of people, they really don't give a fuck about the name. It's like, oh, who cares? If you look at his other teammates, Moon Pie, Blue, Tuffy, which I don't think he was really a teammate, he was trying out, but they just had like really nondescript names. He had a real first name. Not only that, he had a last letter, E, which they call him Jonathan E, and there's always a period at the end. To me, that there is so much symbolism in that, and there's so much shit you can really think about, and just like, wow, that's really cool. Now, the last movie I'm going to talk about, which is actually fairly new. I saw it in the theater, which I'll explain that in a second. It is The Prestige, which stars, it's directed by Chris Nolan and stars Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman. Now, the reason I saw this in the theater, it looked like a good movie, but my wife has a fucking crush on Christian Bale. So I'm like, okay, well, I want to see the movie anyway, so fuck it, let's see it. In the movie, if you guys haven't seen it, it's about 2 magicians who they're almost like rivals, and they're trying to be the best magicians, and this is around late 1800s, early 1900s, and it involves Nikola Tesla, the fucking electrical genius, and he's played by David Bowie, and Bowie does an amazing fucking job, and they're trying to like pretty much best each other, and there's too much really to explain in the movie, because there's a lot of open-endedness to it. Especially the ending. You kind of don't know what's going on. And throughout the whole story, like, you kind of go back and forth between your opinions. And like I said, there's too much to really go into. But the movie is fucking fantastic. The acting is great. The direction is great. The fucking imagery is great. Everything is just awesome about this movie. And you kind of see the end coming, but at the same time, you're not. And it's pretty much, they put it out in plain view for you. You just don't see it. But anyway, those are three of my favorite movies. Now, if someone asks about more movies, I'm going to talk about those two, which actually I probably could plan to do another one about possibly movie franchises. But anyway, going back through the comments, people are kind of like, like, okay, enough of the ranting shit for a while. Okay, that's fine. I'm having fun doing these too. In fact, I think it's even better when I don't have to fucking yell at someone. I can just talk about some fun shit. But anyway, like I said, I've got a ton of these planned out. Like, okay, I'm going to do this one, I'm going to do this one, because there's so many great ideas. And maybe they're just obvious ideas, I just never explored them. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this, and until the next video, this is Bad 5, and I'll see you guys later.